Hi, my name is Ursula and I'm an instructor at the College of DuPage. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the math sections for the ACT and the SAT. This is part of a multi-part series on tips and tricks for the ACT and SAT. So for both the ACT and the SAT, you're going to have a math test. On the ACT, you're going to have one math section. You get to use the calculator for it, and they're all multiple choice questions. On the SAT, you're going to have two math tests. One where you can use the calculator, and then one where there is no calculator that you can use. Both of those sections have a multiple choice and a grid section in it. So you'll have your regular multiple choice question, and then you'll have about 5 or 6 at the end where you have to fill in a grid, or what's called the free response. So there is no A, B, C, D to choose from. You'll have to come up with the answer on your own and then put it in like a little Scantron grid. So for example, if your answer was like 2.5, you put in 2 decimal and the 5, and then you put like the 2 and then the decimal and then the 5, right? So you'd have it in a grid like that. So you have that both on the calculator and the no calculator section. So that's how that is. So, but it's the same material. It's still, they both will cover algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and a little bit of trig. So the material that's covered is the same, but then how they ask you the questions is a little bit different. So today I'm going to cover a little bit about the geometry question that you might get asked. Usually they'll give you a picture, and then it's up to you to decide whether or not the picture is valuable the way it is, or if you need to add something to it. So for example, a really common problem that they'll ask you to do is like, here's a garden, and someone wants to put a fence around it, right? How much fencing do they need, okay? And they might give you like this side and a couple other sides, or they give you like, X is one of them or whatever. Sometimes it's going to be easier to like bump out some of these sides and make it look like a regular rectangle, right? And you haven't changed anything because like the value of this line here has just been moved down here, and the value of this line here has just been moved there. So you haven't changed the perimeter at all, but you've made it look a little bit nicer. So maybe they only gave you part of this section but not the other, or whatever they gave you. It might be helpful if you drew out the lines and maybe bumped them out and made it look like a regular rectangle. Sometimes they'll give you a shape and it's not exactly friendly, and so you might have to cut it up into other shapes that you recognize. So for example, something like this, again, like that, and they want you to know the area of it. Sometimes it'll be better like if you cut up the shape. So here if we have this like this, so then we have 2 rectangles and a square. That might be easier for you to figure out what the area is instead of like dealing with these little things that stick out. So again, they'll give you some pictures sometimes, but you might need to add something extra to it, make it something that you're more familiar with, cut it up into little parts, whatever. Sometimes it'll be better to add something that you know more of the rules about. So for example, like if you don't remember all the ways that the trapezoid angles work, you'll see that if you have your trapezoid here, if you remember the definition of a trapezoid, you have these 2 lines parallel. Well, that also goes with the 2 parallel lines, 1 transversal, that hopefully everybody knows. And it's hidden in this picture here. But if you extend these lines here like this, here are your 2 parallel lines, 1 transversal. So then here you know that this angle is going to be congruent with this one with this one. And so like depending on what they give you, you might be able to figure out what the angles are. If you can draw something else that you remember what it is, like the alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side interior, or whatever the rules are, that might help you figure out something else for a different picture. So look for something that you know, and maybe extend the line if you need to, or cut it up into different shapes, make it smaller. So remember that when they do give you pictures, they are not necessarily drawn to scale. So if they give you something that looks like it might be 90 degrees, right? Unless they put the little 90-degree indicator there, it could be 89 degrees, right? So no matter how straight up and down it looks to you, you can't assume that it's 90 degrees unless they say these are perpendicular, or they give you a little box or something. So don't assume anything. Pictures are not drawn to scale, and I wouldn't trust eyeballing any sort of 90-degree thing. So again, pay attention to what you're given and work with what you have. Okay. So if you're interested in learning more about different tips and tricks for the ACT or the SAT, you can contact us on the internet here. We are not going to be having in-person classes this summer, but we will have one-on-one tutoring available. You can go to the Youth Academy and give us your information, your phone number, email address, and someone from the office will get back to you and let you know how to get a book and how to get in contact with an instructor. Thank you so much for watching, and look for the other parts in the series on tips and tricks for the ACT and the SAT.